everybody. Welcome to another episode of Rosie Speaks. Today I have a wonderful group of my friends. So a little while ago, I had talked to Sir Helga about doing a show like this. And it basically, my exact words were, I'm going to steal your idea for your show, but do it from my perspective. And it became a whole thing, and I had like experience doing this in the real world, and everything sort of kind of just came together and worked in a very perfect confluence of events where I now get to have this platform where I can talk to people of any walk of life, artists, fighters, knights, kings, queens, people who have never even been to an event before. So I have this whole thing, and today I have an incredible group of people of all different sizes and shapes and colors and whatever, and we're all coming together from all different backgrounds to answer all of these questions. So, hello to all of you. Thank you for all of you guys agreeing to come with me and on my adventure. And I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, but my OCD is super excited about this color wheel going on, where we all sort of fade into the next. So let us all introduce each other or ourselves. I am Rosie Blackroom. Ducky, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Sure. I'm Ducky, but my society name is Eleanor Ashicombe. Most people don't know me that way. They know me as Ducky. From Starcoffin, and the preferred pronouns are they, them.
All right, Kaznot.
So I am Nuala Kaznot, but I go by Kaznot. I will not respond to Nuala, and I've even had in court where I've been called up for an award, and they've also mangled my name because I chose Gaelic, and that's my fault. So they're like, Nuala Kaznot, and someone's like, I think that's you. So Kaznot.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. And last but not least, Ref.
Hi, I just realized I didn't change my name for this, but I'm Ref. Something Rosie didn't mention is that we are all part of the Inept Engineers, which I am a very proud member of. It's our household in the SCA, and I'm a fighter within the SCA. I do treasury for the household, and I'm very involved in making it so our household runs smoothly.
That's actually where the whole beginning of this particular episode came to light. I am a part of your guys' household page, and I posted to the group if anybody would be interested in joining me. And I got a bunch of, well, not quite a bunch, but I got quite a bit of interest, and I wanted to bring people in who are all from the same culture, and that would be the Inept Engineer culture, and have everybody come in, but that wouldn't be about the household. So I want it to be about us, about the four of us. However, I have met all of you collectively through the Inept Engineers. I had met Ducky through different flavors of work that I can't even honestly remember. Now it's going to bother me.
Too many flavors of work.
Too many flavors of work. But everybody kind of, it was one of those oh, it's a small world type situations. I had interacted with all three of you completely separate of the engineers before I had even known that all of you guys were camping together in the same household. And I love that. I love that even in our pretty remote community, there's so many different levels and depths. So thank you all for coming and joining me today. So I was talking to Brienne earlier in the week about having the three of you on. And I realized that I do not know how the three of you got into the SCA. So my first question is, how did you get involved in the SCA? Oh, sorry, hold on, let's try that again. let's start with Kazna.
Sure. Okay, so this last Petrora War, I think would have been like my 6th or 7th. I knew nothing about the SCA. I lived in a city called La Mesa in San Diego, and the apartments next to us, I saw this couple, and they always had like medieval gear every once in a while, maybe almost yearly. But I loved costuming. I did just like a lot of elaborate costumes, and they're like, "Hey, so how do you like medieval stuff?" And I was into it. So my first SCA event ever was actually a Petrora War. um, and then I spent like the next 3 or 4 years where Petrora War was just it. That's all I did. And then I met someone actually through a Renaissance fair who also did SCA, and we started dating, and he was a heavy armored fighter. And I was like, that looks really cool, but what about those guys with the really slender swords? So he got me into the rapier community, and as soon as I started fighting in the rapier community, I started doing all the things. I was going to the events, the baronial meetings, so it's like things escalated very quickly once that happened.
I love hearing that. The progression and then the accidental fall off a cliff into this like wonderful pile of all of these things that you could possibly imagine. And it's so much deeper than you could ever think.
Absolutely.
How about you, Ref? How did you get into the SCA?
So I got into the SCA when I was 12, around 2004, but that was through my brother who had nerd friends that did LARP. But I didn't really get involved until 2011, after I also started hanging out with those nerd LARPers. And I met all of the engineers, which was a much smaller group at the time. And I loved coming back and being able to participate. I was very fringy pirate, and I didn't really get involved until I started fighting and getting like the supportive group network that we have in Calliope and Kaid of the fighters, of being able to actually get to know an actual core group of SCA members, at which point I was very excited to participate more and more in getting involved into the arts and sciences and fighting more. So that was basically how I did it.
I love that. I did not know you were second gen, which is hilarious because
So,
I've
sort
met
of.
your parents, or I've met your dad.
Yeah. Like sort of. They didn't get involved until I was 12, and they got involved because of my brother. So it was one of those, like, I went camping to Potrero like 1 or 2 times,
Mm-hmm.
and then I did rent fairs for basically the entire time I was a teenager, and then I got back into the SCA as an adult, kind of on that. But I'd
awesome.
known it. Yeah.
I did not know that that was a thing. That's super cool. Did you notice a different, so you said you came in sort of like as an adult, like on your own?
Yeah.
Was the approach different, or like did you just have like a different freedom because you were an adult?
I sort of had a different freedom. Like I was allowed to go camping and stuff on my own and stuff because I was an adult. I didn't need the supervision anymore because I was an adult. And I had like a whole group of friends that I had made through my brother who were the engineers and invited me to go camping at Potrero War as a fringy pirate. And the fringy side of Potrero War is very much like Renaissance fairs in Southern California. So it wasn't much of a difference. But through the years, I've become more legit. Since 2011 is when I officially started coming back to SCA.
That's awesome. I love the whole origin story concept.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be Ducky's turn.
So I actually got started in Ethelmark. I met the SCA through a bunch of people who were not good ambassadors for the SCA. I started working at a Sterling Renaissance Fair, which is a standing Renaissance fair back east in upstate New York, and I met some Laurels who were not so nice about my Tudor costuming. And so I didn't get super involved out there. I went to a couple of meetings because it did sound fun, but nothing super serious until I moved out here and I needed a new hobby. I went to a Ren fair out here, either 2008 or 2009. when I first moved out here and met the Barony. Just been around and jumped in ever since because yeah, I knew what I was doing. I just jumped right in.
So I have a very unique experience with the SEA. It's almost like in my brain there are two different SEAs. There was the SEA that I grew up in, where I was a child, and I got to watch as my parents and their friends went off to the heavies field or to the rapier field or to pick up trash or whatever it was that they were doing at the time. And then now, where I didn't really have a break so much between me being a kid and then me being an adult. It was just like one day everybody sort of decided collectively that I was no longer 3 years old. And it's a really weird thing to say because it's not like I was treated poorly as a whole. Like everybody has their, like, some people are gonna be shitty about a thing no matter what you do about it. And that's true in 100 different ways. But it was just like, some people just like looked at me as the little kid that was doing stuff, even though I was not a little kid and doing stuff. So it was really interesting. The very first moment I realized, holy fuck, I'm actually an adult in this kingdom that I grew up in, was at a Great Western War 6 years ago now, maybe 7 years ago, when Bridget was queen the first time. I grew up with Bridget as my youth combat person. She was the person who trained me to fight. And the first time I realized I was an adult in Kaid was Bridget was on the throne and she looked at me, and in like the middle of, like, I think it was like a court meeting or something. We were in somebody's camp and she goes, I don't know about you, but Rosie and I have been doing this for 17 years. I think we're tired. Let's go take a nap. And like only part of the people knew who I was. So like the blanket realization across the board that I had been doing this hobby for so long was like, oh wait, no, like other people really think that's a long time. But like 1 to 17 doesn't really feel like 17 years, like when you're doing it. But yeah, so the whole origin story thing is a whole situation, and I love hearing everybody's story. And speaking of everybody's story, this question is from Brienne. He asked, how has the SEA helped each of you develop as a person? Who would like to go first?
I can. So I have high functioning anxiety. Welcome to the SEA. A lot of us, tend to have our neurological problems. But like, I was never, I didn't put myself forward a whole lot. Like the things that I was confident in, I was confident in. I've been in the animal industry personally for almost 8 years. Like, don't get into an argument with me about pet nutrition. Like, you're going to go down. If you have questions, hit me up. I became, I don't want to say extroverted because doing the thing is still incredibly exhausting to me to put myself out there so much. But like, I'm going out there and meeting new people, chatting them up. I'm giving 101s at Potrero. I gave my first like class, which surprisingly had like 5 people in it.
What did you teach?
I
have to interrupt.
No, that's fine. How to teach Rapier 101. It wasn't a Rapier 101 class. It was how to teach someone to do the thing, because I've taught music, I've taught dog training, so I know how to teach people. And I was kind of doing the shadow lane thing as a territorial marshal in Calafia. So that just, I was like, it might not be perfect, but you got to start out somewhere. So I've actually pushed outside of a lot of my boundaries and gotten to know so many more people because of the SCA. Without the SCA, I would have stayed in my bubble, and I don't know how. I feel like that would have been a lot more of a negative impact on my life. Like I probably would have become a hermit with a cat.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being a hermit with a cat. I totally understand the sort of necessity to kind of like break out of your shell. And I love hearing that that was a positive experience for you. So that's wonderful. Muffin, do you want to go next?
Sure. The positive influence that the SCA had on me was the fact that it gave me a family, or like it allowed me to find my family. And I love you too, Casnot. I love all you guys. But yeah, it gave me my family, and it allowed me to grow up in an area that was safe and where I was able to be myself, find myself. I don't know. It's just, I love it because I'm able to hang out with people, and it showed me traveling is awesome because I didn't really travel before all of this, and I travel all over the place now. Like you can ask any of my friends where like, hey, I'm going out to Florida and I'm going to go do some fighter practices, or I'm going to drive up to Oregon and do Sport of Kings because I'm going to go travel. And like everyone that knows me is like, oh my God, where are you right now? It's like, I'm actually home, surprisingly. Unlike last week where I was, I don't know where. So it found my love for traveling and it found my family. So it's been great and I love it.
So it's very interesting. The topic of family has been family in the SEA specifically has been something that's been brought up in a couple of my other different episodes, and I find it to be super interesting because I have I have like literal blood family in the SEA, and then I have my chosen family in the SEA. And like, don't get me wrong, my family, my blood family is great and I love them and they're wonderful in their own right. However, being able to have the opportunity to grow a family of my own volition, of my own choice, isn't something that I realized I needed or wanted in life, and the SEA sort of gives that. That's not really how the SEA has changed me specifically. I'm going to save that I'm going to go last, but I definitely like the fact that the SEA kind of gives the opportunity for people, like for anybody to find somebody to connect with, because at the end of the day, if we're all at an event, even if I'm afraid to talk to you, I will always know going into a conversation that we have at least one thing in common, which isn't something that you really get to have in everyday life. So that's always been something that I always like to remind someone of when I bring them to their first event, is just remember that everybody here is also here to do this thing that's very specific. So you will always have that one very specific hobby in common. So that's always super cool, and I love that. All right, Ducky.
Honestly, the SCA has, I mean, I was always going to pick my chosen family. I have rejected a lot of my blood family for various reasons. So I was always going to have a chosen family. I was going to find it wherever, but the people of the SCA that I have found have forced me to be healthier about myself. So that was the way it made me grow, because a lot of people would not have forced me to communicate and work on myself as much as the people that I found have.
Support is something that is genuine and true when found in a group of people. And the Inept Engineers is a group that I have secretly fallen in love with. Secretly.
So secret.
secretly,
It's so secret.
secretly fallen in love with.
It's your
Because I was
hideaway camp.
It is, in fact, my hideaway camp. I am a little bit of a busybody, in case you did not know that. Just a smidge. And I met.
It always starts off as a pirate timeshare, and then you just move there.
Ducky can tell you all about that.
Yeah, I can tell you all about that. It starts off as a pirate timeshare because you're just done with people.
Pirate protection program.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us how half of her barony now in our household.
I love that. But the Inept Engineers is a super inclusive and supportive group. Even though I only know like 10 of you, the rest of the group is super welcoming and super just like, oh, you know this person? Cool, we can be friends now too. And that was such a warm and drastically different environment than I'm used to. From not just like in the SEA, this is like personally on the Rosie train. That is not something that I have. Those are not stops I frequently find myself at. So to be able to find you guys and to be able to like hide in a group of, I don't know, how many of you are there? 54, 55?
No, there are 100 members on the books. Yes, there are 100 members on the books. There are
That's so many.
60 people, 60 plus that camp with us.
On the regular.
On the regular, yeah. And we're still growing pretty considerably. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of you, and I know this many of you.
Yes, there's a lot of us.
But that doesn't matter. All you need is one person, and the rest of you are just like super welcoming until you prove yourself to be fucking stupid. Like if you're like, don't be a shitty human being, and then there's no issues. But that's, beside the point. The way that the SEA has changed me and helped me grow as a person is I have learned that at the end of the day, all of us are human beings. And that people, okay, hold on. Let me think of the way I want to phrase this in a way that is light. Help comes in many different forms. That is something that the SK has taught me. And that there is nothing more important than saying thank you. And I say that, and it makes me think, like, maybe I wasn't taught to say thank you as a child, which is not true. But the frequency of saying thank you, I did not realize had such an impact on human beings until I was in the SEA. Until I spent 48 hours working through a war straight. Until I watched Brienne work 150 hours at a Pachura war and not be a steward. Like, it is those sort of things that really truly get to me and have shown me that there are people who give themselves so deeply and so truly to this society and don't talk about it and won't talk about it because at the end of the day, in their minds, that's not what matters. It does not matter that they just spent 50 hours doing something. It does not matter that they are running production for 4 different shows. I'm talking about Sir Helga, in case that wasn't wholly obvious.
Yes.
Yeah, but Helga will be the first one to tell you that she's not doing anything.
Oh,
I'm looking at you right now. Like, look at this. Right? Look at this right here, Helga. You're doing a lot. Shut up.
Doing a lot, and we all appreciate everything that she does.
Definitely fighter crush on her.
And she has this incredible team behind her. But it's people like Helga who really show me that saying thank you really does go a long way. and being kind and smiling at the people who are sitting at gate, the people who are feeding you, serving you in whatever way, they are the people who you should thank. I mean, you should thank everybody for what they do, but that is something that has humongously impacted me, is how much just saying thank you or being kind to somebody impacts them. And maybe it's because we have such a focused group that I can like watch the different interactions and compare it to. But boy, do I say thank you for the smallest things, just because I know what it's like to have people not say thank you. So that is a big thing for me.
I totally
Okay.
understand.
So here comes into a very constant and interesting topic that has been going around the internet lately, but I have to go turn on my lights, so hold on one moment. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the whole premise of this show that I'm doing came from a combination of, I did this in the real world for a living, and I didn't really know how to care about the SCA in quarantine. After talking to lots of different people, I decided that I did not feel like the non-peer, as a generality, was getting a voice. And as all of you know, I'm a little bit of a loudmouth, and I I like everybody to be happy. I'm a people pleaser. And while I am beginning to understand that you can't make everybody happy, I am still trying to be available and be accessible to everybody. That's why I like having anybody on the show. I have not said no to any of the requests. I am going even out of my own comfort zone and bringing and asking people that I don't even know. But something that has been a very interesting and rough sort of topic lately is the concept of the peer versus the non-peer. Now, I am not saying that there is a war going on. However, I am not denying the fact that there is a very wide gap in between the people who are peers and those individuals who are participating in the SEA that might not have come in with a friend as a peer to begin with. With that being said, what do you guys think peers can do as a whole to become approachable? Because that is a topic that sort of spurred that is a question that I was asked that kind of kicked this into gear, was I'm interested in this art thing, but none of the Laurels want to talk to me. And I'm afraid to talk to that knight. I'm afraid to talk to this Pell. I'm afraid to talk to that master of defense. What do you think that peers, other peers, or even not peers can do to make that dynamic less of a gap? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Basically, at the brass
Go for it, I
tacks.
don't mind.
Do it.
At the brass, go ahead.
First of all, you got to make more of them. Period. End of statement.
Yep.
Period. End of statement. You want to be more approachable? Make more numbers so that I see you and I don't see the divide.
So do you think that the divide is coming from age?
I think that it is a factor. I think that the SCA is not unlike a university, and that we have a large age gap and a large income gap. Not unlike a university. And we have the same sort of power dynamic, not unlike a university, where these peers tend to have some sort of leverage, not necessarily, so a privilege. They have a power. Whether or not they want it, they have it. And they can use that advantage or power for good or evil. And I'm not trying to label any peer as good or bad, but you have that power. And so you have the power to make more people, you have the power to include more people in your peerage, and you have more power to give those people that you find worthy a platform. Why aren't you doing it?
Yep.
It's not just age, but it is a factor. Yes.
I also with that, I also think it's not necessarily age in regards to like years, but I feel like there is a traditionalism. Obviously, I'm a rapier fighter, right? Yeah. So I have this very not necessarily unique, obviously, but we were just within the past 5-6 years given peerage. So prior to that, there was a duelist, and then there was the Order of the White Scarves. Order of the White Scarves that's it. That's the highest you can go. You are not a peer, but that is the highest level that you can have. So now we have the Order of the White Scarves for Kaid, because we chose to close the order. Not other kingdoms have. But in Kaid, we only have the duelist, the Argent Blade, and then a Master of Defense. And I've noticed this giant gap between getting a duelist to being an Argent Blade, and I think it's because of the traditionalism, because people are potentially pushing that label on what they think like a white scarf should have potentially been. Like that is that level, which was their highest, and then now you're getting hired to a Master of Defense. I also think that like not necessarily ageism is we're restrictive in regards to martial prowess. Like I know someone who is a white scarf. He is getting older. He is still like he'll win tournaments. He's doing well, but his martial prowess is never going to get higher because he's aging and things are going to be more difficult. But that doesn't change his peer-like qualities. He
doesn't change his contributions either. I know the guy you're talking about, and it doesn't change his contributions to the community.
Yeah, it doesn't. And so, but like people are like, well, he will never be a Master of Defense, and I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Do you think that has to do with, okay, so hold on. To qualify the question that I'm going to ask, recently in Kaid, a member of the Order of the Pelican was made that some people were unsure of because of their peer-like qualities being not up to par. And I'm sitting here as a former volunteer steward for the biggest event that Kaid runs, knowing that this individual puts in more hours than almost anybody else. And at the drop of a hat, no matter what time it was, I could always call on this person to fill a shift. Now, I will agree that their social skills are not as refined as other pelicans that I have met. However, that does not denigrate from the fact that this individual still stayed up from, I don't know, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. to run a constable shift. And this individual is not a young human. And I agree that there are some rough points when it comes to communication, and that there are some moments where I may not agree with the way things are handled. However, I was not having to do that shift from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So that I was grateful for. And I think that the way that the peerages determine what a peer-like quality isn't public enough, I guess.
So it's not public at all unless you're a knight, it seems like.
Right.
And excuse me for walking over somebody's experience, because I haven't fought in years, but it doesn't seem like for any peerage other than one with martial prowess that there is rules.
There isn't. I mean, at least I agree with you.
There aren't qualifications. Yeah.
But even becoming a knight, sometimes there's like, you would think that some individual would actually be knight qualities, and then you're told by knights, they're like, no, not at all. It's like, what do you mean?
Well, and they've gone back and forth on what they qualify as peer-like qualities, as they have their right to do. They're their own community.
Sure. But it's still like, but where am I supposed to get my information from obtaining
like,
that goal?
it's a very small my internet.
Rude.
Okay,
y'all hear me? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I also think a detriment is also like, I mean, and this is me personally, is like, what are you going to continue to do in the community? Because a big thing for me of being a peer-like qualities is teaching, is perpetuating what you earn that in. And I haven't necessarily seen it as much in the rapier community, but I have seen it in the heavies community where they're like, I'm a knight.
Yeah.
And so they're not, they met their goal, achievement unlocked.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to teach anymore. We're not going to do this. Hey, guess what? I got a beautiful white belt or a collar or whatever it is.
It's not just an, oh, sorry, Ref, go ahead.
I do know that some of the knights actually do take that into consideration of, do they think that this person is going to basically stop because achievement unlocked, and they have taken that into consideration. And I know some knights have been held back because they got achievement after achievement after achievement. And it's like, we need to slow this down so you don't get your knighthood, so that you don't just quit on us because you joined the SCA 3 years ago, type of thing. So.
And it's not just that community either, because I know that some people have brought up in the Pell community that they're worried that somebody's going to get their Pell and just stop serving because they're like, I got my award, I'm done.
Achievement unlocked.
Achievement unlocked. So it's not just a problem of that community. I don't think that we should be saying that it's bad to work for an award the way we're saying it. Yeah. You're allowed to reach for a goal without asking for a cookie. The goal should be, I'm going to be somebody who has peer-like qualities, whether or not somebody recognizes me of that. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be, let's shit on somebody for having a goal.
Yeah.
So I got a whole ass soapbox to go on real fast. So
legit.
So bear with me as I process a whole lot of things. I was speaking with a duchess from the Outlands earlier in the week, and she asked me a question about being in the SCA for 25 years, if I, as a non-peer, have noticed a trend of people who almost, or like right before they become peers. So her question was, can you, after doing it for this long, predict accurately who's going to be the next peerage? The only peerage that I can do that with is knighthood. And it's not because their prowess skyrockets, it's not because their PLQs skyrockets, it's because they stop having fun. You know how fucked up that is? I cannot even talk to you about it because it makes me so upset. And it's literally like Brienne's first night, it didn't work out for personal reasons. But one thing that he said that has really stuck with me is, actually, I think his wife told me, but whatever, was you will know when he is almost close, when he stops having fun. Now, granted, when I was informed of this information, I probably should have gone to Brandon and been like, we should maybe reevaluate this whole dynamic real quick. I waited a little bit longer than maybe I needed to before we had that whole conversation. But it still stuck with me because it's so fucking true. And it
Also
makes me
messed up.
so pissed because I cannot think of of anything less encouraging than to say, you'll know when you're close when you are miserable.
Yeah.
And I think that concept, maybe it's just Kaiden, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that that's fucked and that we need to change it. I also don't believe it's just for knights. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Ref.
that does seem kind of fucked up, because then it's like we're trying to give you that push to be happy with fighting again. It's like we knew that you were prowess and chivalrous and all the other qualities that make you a knight. We needed you to be miserable before we actually allowed you to be a knight. And I've seen that so many people that have been offered same, like also like you, where it's like they know that they're there and they're asking the knights like, what more do I need to do? And those people are they're just sitting there being like, okay, but what else? Like, I feel like I'm doing the arts and I'm doing the fighting and I feel like I'm participating in the FCA and all of the things that you're supposed to do to be a knight. And then it takes them to be like, well, I guess I'll just give up, or I'll just kind of be here until they offer. And it's messed up that that's how it is.
I agree. I
Absolutely.
think it's
PLQ shouldn't be misery.
Yeah.
It's such a bullshit thing too, because everybody who just gets to the other side of it, because like I was just listening to or just watched the Bitter Luck Nights and their episode of the show, and the first thing that they said was, well, you got to have fun with it. So how are you going to tell me I got to be miserable first and then come back and have fun?
Yeah.
That's some gaslighty fuckery.
Personally, as somebody who's going to be, it's kind of striving towards being a knight. I'm not necessarily looking to leaps and bounds run towards that finish line, because I know it's going to be like, it'll happen eventually. And if I make it that my determined goal, I'm going to be upset if I don't get it. So I'm somebody who travels to fight because I enjoy it, or I'm going to just enjoy the experience, because if I'm going to make that my goal, first off, I will probably be miserable when I don't just achieve it at I should have had it in 2 years. No, my stance is I'll get offered in like 2 to 10, 15, 20 years. Who cares?
So something that I recently, so I say I got in trouble, but that's not the real case. It's more like I was just corrected on the way that I spoke about it. Was somebody asked me, do you strive to become a pelican? And I said, yes, but I know I'm not going to get it till I'm at least 45, so why should I concern myself with it now? And I said that to 3 different people before someone corrected me, because it's not necessarily that I have to be 35. I have that view because I grew up working, but only my work only counts since I turned 18. Which is fine.
About second generation.
No, it's not fine.
No, it's not fine. It's kids growing up in the SCA not getting recognized and then expecting them to do more once they reach adulthood.
That person has given a whole lifetime of work.
Yeah.
You've given a whole lifetime of work, and you can't invalidate a whole lifetime of work based on age.
Mm-hmm. So here's my, I don't disagree that is the way that the society is treating children now. It was not the way that I was treated as a child. When I was a kid, we had something called the Acorn King and Queen. So during whatever reign, now I couldn't tell you what it was because I can't remember that long ago, but during a reign when I was a kid, I won a tournament and got to become the Acorn Queen. And then one of Kuma's sons, Sir Kuma of Kaid, for those of you who don't know, he won and got to be the Acorn King. So as kids, we got to win a tournament and become a thing. And now, granted, I think we got one event, but I don't know. I was 3 And it was the greatest and most incredible moment ever. And that's not really something that we do anymore. But imagine if we had continued with the tradition that Bridget and Kuma set up in Kai of the kids got to fight and have their own culture within our kingdom culture. Imagine if we were able to foster the kids today through that. I mean, like, you fought and showed your prowess in this thing as a child and got to have this accolade. Like, I have accolades that don't even exist anymore. From the Barony of Altavia and the Barony of the Angels, because I was active and I was the only kid at the time. I mean, it was 25 years ago, so it's hard to compare that to now because we're huge in comparison. But if we were able to foster that kind of excitement in the kids,
yeah,
like, I just don't see that happening anymore. And so it's rough. It's so interesting.
So down here in Calafia, we actually do have a pretty good kid community, especially in the fighting area. Like, Caesar is doing an amazing job with youth combat. Like, I see him all over the place, making sure that the youth get to participate. So it's the volunteers that we need to actually run those competitions and whatever's going on with youth. You need the volunteers to actually make it so that the youth can get involved. My problem with the second generation SCA people is that when they become adults, is that they've put in all this time and energy into the SCA, and now they have like twice the burden of needing to try to get any award, really. And that's the problem, because I know at least a couple of people who made it garb for the entire crown and they did not get their laurel. Like, are you kidding me? And they made amazing garb. Why aren't these people being accomplished and being rewarded?
Well, I mean, it's much easier to just offer it to them after they're no longer here, right?
Yeah. Mood.
Well, it's holding them to an adult standard is really where it is. Because they did so well, and then they're like, okay, so you're 16, you're 17, and you're producing this amazing gear, but now that you're an adult, you have to go like that much more above and beyond, which I don't think is fair. If you are already producing beautiful works, like, you shouldn't have to be like, well, you should have to do more, if that makes sense.
I think that another thing that adds to the rough circle of life when it comes to being a second generation versus somebody who came in as an adult in their only adult lives is on top of having increased expectations for service or for behavior or for whatever, you also have to fight yourself to become something different. And that's something that I luckily was able to get out of really quickly. I was able to find a way to be loud enough in a positive way to get out from underneath the idea of childhood me. And I know that somebody who, like Viscount Ulf, also had a little bit of that, because him and I grew up together. Literally, like, it was really funny. I went to his investiture when he became Prince of the Mists and was showing all of these Westies that had no idea who I was, all these pictures of me and Tiny Ulf holding boffers and being, shenanigan children. It was hilarious.
He was starting to face that when I showed up, honestly. He, not starting to. He was noticeably facing that when I showed up, because when I showed up to this barony, he was about 17, and I was like 21, and nobody wanted to give either of us the time of day because we were two 20-ish year old shitheads.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of work to prove to people that he wasn't a 10-year-old kid anymore.
Yeah, and it's hard to come back from that.
Yeah.
It's hard to come back from people who have been a prominent figure your entire life being like, oh, that's just little whoever, or blah, 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 blah. It's hard to get past that. It's hard to go to somebody and just be like, and when they're just like introducing to you as, oh, this is little whoever the fuck. And I'm just like, well, actually, I'm totally the steward for this event and need to be treated as such. So I don't really like to title pull, but since I was given a crescent a year ago by Steina and Adam, that has been something that I've had to pull out, and I hate that I have to use that. Like, excuse me, I'm like, it's really frustrating when I have conversations with people who I don't know, and they're just like being condescending and shitty to me, and they're just like, oh, well, who are you? My favorite one was at Great Western Moor, someone is bitching to me about the volunteer system, and like sitting there and complaining about how like having the tablets at war makes it so that it's no longer an SEA event and we're turning into a comic convention. And I'm sitting there and I'm drinking my whatever. And I'm listening and I'm like, oh, I really appreciate your feedback. And they're just like, I don't understand. What do you mean your feedback? I'm just telling you like it is. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Did I forget to introduce myself? I'm Rosie. I run it. And they're like, and I'm just like,
I'm so sorry for offending.
Like, it's very interesting when I'm just like having to pull, like, it sucks that I have to like pull rank. And I'm just like, I don't really give a I personally don't care about titles. Whatever you call yourself is what you call yourself. Introduce me by that. Otherwise, I'm going to call you whatever you introduce me by for the rest of forever. So I'm really bad at calling Ducky and Muffin, Ref, and Eleanor because I was introduced to them as Ducky and Muffin.
I mean, Ducky also doesn't go by Eleanor.
Yeah, that's Ulf's fault, though.
Well, fuck Ulf.
I moved to this kingdom with a name, and Ulf goes, no, you're Ducky now. And
rude?
How dare, I mean, you kind of embraced it because I see that you're wearing the duck hat that I made for you.
It's a nickname that I had come. Yeah, Muffin made this hat. Yeah,
That's
but
amazing.
It's a nickname that I had coming over, and he was just like, "Oh no, we're gonna run with it. You're gonna run with it. Cool. I don't mind being called that, but I embrace the name because I don't particularly like my name, my birth name anyway. But people would know Eleanor Ashicombe if people at the beginning had used Eleanor Ashicombe.
Yep.
I mean, you're evolved enough. Darn Ulf.
I decided that we're just going to blame Ulf for everything. And at the end, like, I'm going to put hashtag it's Ulf's fault at the bottom of this.
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
I've openly blamed him for years. So
I 100% agree. It's also really funny because I'm pretty sure this episode and the episode of Ask the Knights with Oz and Ulf is happening the day after this episode is aired. So I think that's hilarious. Perfect. I planned this. It's fine.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So since we're all talking about peers and peerages, my next question is, do you aspire to become a peer? And if yes, what aspires you to become that peerage? And I'm going to start with this one.
Do it.
So the whole idea, as we have mentioned in this episode, of aspiring for a peerage is sort of frowned upon in at least our kingdom's culture. And it's recently, in the past year or two, I've noticed it's no longer as widespread and common as it used to be. However, it's still here. And it's still around, and you still have a solid number of peers saying, oh, well, if you're striving for this, then you automatically aren't going to get it until you're not looking at it anymore. And I don't like that idea. So I'm openly saying, yes, at the end of the day of life, I would like to at some point be a queen and a pelican.
Yes.
Now, neither of these things I am inherently in control of. I can only inspire my fighter to do his best. And whatever that means is plenty for me. So whatever he does on the field, I'm thrilled about, no matter the outcome. And that is my heart and my whole, and I love watching my fighter grow and become himself in whatever way, whatever form he is next going to be. And if that ends, at the end of the day, if we are never given the honor of carrying a crown, that's okay, because his best is all that matters to me. Whatever he does and whatever makes him feel good is what matters. And to become a pelican is a complicated path. Now, I have talked to many different people about this. I have talked to peers, non-peers, pelicans, royals who have made pelicans, and a bunch of other people. And a lot of people lately have just been saying, well, you need to chill and relax and just hang out. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to chill and relax and hang out, because specifically the Order of the Pelican is so mysterious. And I think that of all the peerages, of all the given peerages, so I say that meaning, like, if you are a royal peer, if you hold a royal position. So princes, princesses, kings, queens, whatever, they are royal peers. That is that I am categorizing in this particular purpose as a separate entity. So the mods, the laurels, the pelicans, and the knights are all given peerages. And I think that the Order of the Pelican is the hardest to achieve, because how can you put a monetization on a monetization or a structure and a scale of what service is good enough?
Yep.
Because when you're a fighter, your prowess shows when you are good enough. When you're a laurel, or when you are trying to become a laurel, there's literally a document. There's a sheet that says you do X, Y, Z things. And if you fit into these categories for whatever period of time, you become a laurel. Mm-hmm. How do you monetize? How do you document helping people? Especially when you do it behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So we've talked about people who do SEA for their whole lives, people who do the SEA from 18 or 17 on, or 12 on, or however old people were. That doesn't denigrate the amount of time that someone has been in the society, should not factor in to the breadth of help that they give or the impact that they have on our society. For example, Dame Gwen is somebody from Kaid who I would say is so incredibly deserving of her peerage as Pelican. She has been in the SEA for, I think, about 8 years, since 2012, if I remember correctly, and has come in. She's revamped our whole Order of the Precedent system. She has completely made Collegium. She's currently the Collegium guru. I don't know. She's currently the head dude for Collegium, and is creating a completely and wholly online system. At the time of airing, this Collegium in Kaid will have just happened this previous weekend, and I cannot be grateful for people like Gwen and her husband Paul and all of the other people who are working so hard, and the teachers who are dedicating their time to such an event like Collegium. But like, how can you say that somebody who's been in the SCA for 8 years has given the same amount of effort and energy into the SCA as someone who's been doing it for 25 years? It's hard to compare that. So how I guess, like, for me at least, while I strive to achieve this at some point in time, at the end of the day, what is getting me going and what is keeping me going is bringing people together. Because if you can have fun, mostly, like, let's be real, I just don't want to do gate alone at 2 a.m. So if I can show other people how cool it is to do gate at 2 a.m., then I have achieved my life's purpose. And I think that that's awesome.
It's the opposite of cool to do gate at 2 a.m., having done it a lot.
All right, Ducky. Well, that means that you got to tell me if you are aspiring to a peerage.
Oh, no.
Okay, beautiful. Now tell me why.
I, at one point in my life, had aspired to be a pelican. I have given up that aspiration. It holds no joy for me to aspire to that goal. Comparison to anybody else in the society about how much I contribute to the society is a thief of my joy. I no longer aspire to be a pelican.
Is that because you don't find joy in it, or because
I don't find joy in comparing myself to anybody else, and I don't want to wait on a group of people who don't have clear outlines for any sort of recognition.
That seems perfectly fair to me. I understand completely. Kazna, would you like to be next?
Sure. Oh goodness. So I guess. Well, it's super difficult because so I have my dolphin. I'm wearing it right now. And I am a very service-oriented individual. Like I have been before I was well into the SEA, but as previously mentioned, a pelican is like it's wibbly wobbly, timey wimey of like, what does that even mean? Like it would be cool if I got a crescent, but what actually determines a crescent? You know, like you said, how do you monetize that? Does it take being an event steward? Does it take being a sub event steward? Like this Petrora War, I was supposed to be a rapier event steward. I was planning on dedicating 10 hours out of my life each day to do the thing. And so that's 40 hours within a war.
Not
that's like a normal.
Planning. Not including pre-planning, because people don't talk about that. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you forget that you're setting up the event as well as then going to the event to work.
Yeah, not including hay bales the day beforehand, checking the ground. Like there's so much hours involved.
Yeah. It's a part-time job's worth of work that you're volunteering to do, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah. As a territorial marshal before COVID, I probably spent like anywhere from 8 to 12 hours out of my week, if not more, because I was going to practices. There are 2 in like Southern California, the Allied Gardens. I was going to Summergate. I was going to other baronies, and even though that's not my service, I was still providing the options and the information that I have, particularly with the horsemen, because they don't have that foundation. Good night. Good night. Sorry, that's my mother.
My mother.
She gives my cats treats every night before she goes to bed. But like it's like how do you monetize that? Like actually for me, when I got my golden trident, which is the baronial level award, I have way too many necklaces on. I'm not going to dig deep for that. That felt a little bit more like it made more of a difference to me than my dolphin, because I felt like my dolphin was like, hey, oh, guess what? You joined the Royal Guard. We saw you at the events. You deserve a dolphin. As opposed to like all the work that I was doing in my barony, which people were seeing the long hours that I was putting in there. And I think that's a super difficult thing too. Is so my boyfriend has called me lawful good, and I am. I really am, because then that's a question of the hard line of baronial versus kingdom. You know, how much, if you support a barony so much, does that mean it should be a kingdom level, or do you have to be seen throughout the kingdom of doing a thing to make you deserving an award? Like I could give someone in Wintermist who has worked his ass off for the barony of Wintermist. This is why events happen. This is why notifications happen. But because it's not on a kingdom level, does that count?
So I think that that's where we get back into the whole concept of, at least in our kingdom specifically, there's no guideline.
Yeah.
So my response is write all of the awards. All of them. It doesn't matter. Because, so I think that a hard thing in Kaid is we're pretty split right now between our age of humans and the previous generation of humans.
Yeah.
And even though there isn't a huge like number gap when it comes to like a millennial versus a boomer, I mean, like, I'm not getting into the whole social, actual, like, general culture of it, but, like, specifically Scadian-wise, there's a gap. And the information that our predecessors had didn't really get clearly passed on to us. So a lot of us are sort of just, like, fucking winging it. And what are we, like, who do you write events, who do you write awards for? Yes. At what point does somebody get an AOA versus does somebody get a dolphin? So Kaznot, you said something that actually like really struck me as like a conversation that I'm gonna have to go have with like 4 other people outside of this podcast. Is the dolphin you felt was, I see you at events, I see you going and doing things, I'm part of the guard, which is super interesting to me because I always had the impression that, or I took that as like, it's almost like, oh, you were seen as participating in what you felt was normal participation levels, and then we're given an award. I think that it needs to be publicized a little bit more that that's what the award means. The award means coming to events and helping whatever or whoever if they need it. But the fact that that's seen as a participation award is upsetting. I don't think that AOAs are given out as quickly as they should. And in at least in my, so let me put it in this flavor of experience. I did not get my AOA until 2016. And then I went AOA, the next year I got my dolphin, and then last year I got my crescent. So in 4 years, I went from AOA to crescent. And and now there were a couple of people who have come to me and who have said, oh, well, you should have gotten your dolphin at this, or you should have done this, or you should have done that. And I'm like, I appreciate that that's how you feel, but it sort of drives me insane that you're saying, oh, I should have done, or like other people should have done that. Well, that's not how the world fucking works. You weren't in charge then, so then it doesn't really, like, there's nothing that can be done about it. It is more upsetting to me to hear, like, people should have done this earlier. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, okay, so I don't think things that should have been done earlier, and this might actually, like you said, cause a completely different discussion. But for me, an AOA is you go to events, you do whatever it is. It could literally be like hanging out and socializing with people. You're out there and doing the thing. People are starting to get to know you. You're literally doing the thing. For me, because we have at this point 3 levels, you know, of getting a thing. Like I also personally feel that those first tier levels are, it's not exactly AOA, but it also kind of is. Like I got my duelist and I'm super proud of my duelist, but I also don't think that that means that I have reached a particular level of martial prowess. People see me fighting, I win a few fights, but you know what? I'm going out within the kingdom and I am doing the thing, as opposed to the person who never goes outside of their barony or their canton or their shire. And maybe they're really great, but they're not helping foster the greater kingdom because no one sees them.
I mean, it's part of your argument, Cass. Now, we actually state in every single one of those awards, I believe, that it grants with it an AOA or the same right as an AOA. It's the same level as an AOA. We heraldically say it when we announce the award.
Yeah. But people don't treat it like that, which is my big issue. Is again, I am stupidly proud of my duelist. I am less stupidly proud of my dolphin, mostly because the entire nature that is Kaznot is a service-based person. I like to help and I want to help. But like we hold such a high regard just for that first tier level when I don't think it should be. The second one, yes. Like for me on a rapier level, like I would love to be a mod, but I also believe that I do not have the knowledge of the skill to be able to teach. Like I can teach people, but I can teach them this. And I'm not going to like lie and say that I'm going to like plug. I'm 36 years old. I'm not going to plug like X amount of my fucking life to learn all the books, to learn all the masters. I'm not going to have that top tier knowledge, but maybe I'll get an Argent Blade because I know X amount and I'm teaching it, and I have the other PLQs outside of like being able to like kill every, fucking person on the field. Sorry, I'm going to get off of my soapbox, but that's my biggest thing about like first awards in regards to anything else besides an AOA is I don't think it should be as hard to get into. I have so many people that I think deserve a duelist. They deserve their, is it Gauntlet? No, Crescent Sword.
Crescent Sword.
I know how to make
Crescent Sword and then it's Gauntlet. Like there's so many people, there's Chevron, that like they deserve that. But we hold this as such a high regard because of we don't want to make people fierce.
So, okay. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and hinge upon that last sentence really fast before we go over to Ref and hear about her path. No, don't be sorry.
No, whatever.
That's why I have this whole show, is so that people who have opinions that maybe are not as widely shared can share them. And I actually agree with you. I think that at least in our kingdom, we sort of we have like a weird hierarchical framing for each of our different everything, like literally in all walks of everywhere. There's like the heavies combat, the rapier combat, the service, the art, the equestrian, the what, like literally in Kaid, you name it, we got a thing for it somewhere. Mm-hmm. And that kind of makes it complicated. So I think it was today in recording time frame, which would be June 7th, the SEA census dropped. And I took it earlier today, and it had some very interesting questions, including the curiosity of adding additional peerages to what we already have. And I think that we should make more people, as Ducky said earlier on, we should make more people the peerages that we already have instead of making new peerages, because I have watched the mods like have a little bit of a rough go from the beginning. They had a lot of people. Like, I think I got to be chief lady the first raid in Kaid we made a master of defense.
Mhm.
And I think it was that was the first time I got to be a chief lady ever also. So it was like a whole confluence of like firsts for everybody. And watching the mods who are absolutely deserving of their peerages, and it's a whole different aspect of like martial prowess, and like the heavies combat has their own martial prowess, and I have opinions about like prowess in general, but that's not what this is about. I think that folding everything in to each other will make the 4 peerages that we have now, besides royal peerages, more meaningful. I feel like if we were to add an additional thing, it would make it more exclusionary and less like, no, we're all equal. This is our thing. This is our chosen path. Like, let's just fucking go.
The problem is we already opened the door by making the mods. And I'm not saying this because the mods shouldn't have been made, because they absolutely deserved a peerage. But you opened the door by creating the 4th peerage.
Yeah.
And now everybody's got a chance. There should not have been a Master of Defense order. They should have been knights. And
I agree. Just like
that's just ripping the
Band-Aid off, I think that mods should be knights.
So
like,
one of those problems is like the problems with the laurels of how there's so many arts, and the quote of, how are you as a cooking laurel going to address those seam treatments? Like,
oh my God, no, you're a real picky bitch about seam treatments for a cooking laurel. It's a thing that has been said in my house.
Yeah, like, and then in that fact of, why wouldn't we want to make more peerages so that the people that are actually judging the other peers are judging their peers, not a cooking laurel judging the costuming laurels or whatever.
So you provide very interesting dynamic to this discussion, because you are a heavies fighter. And so therefore, I mean, like, that's not obviously that's not all you are, but in this,
like, I made bets.
You did, and I cannot understand how magical you are at your art things. But that's, again, a whole other podcast.
Yes.
Art is beautiful, and I love all of it. Yeah. But you have a very interesting perspective. So in case the audience has not seen or noticed, you are a female human being.
Yes, I am.
Last I checked, and you are a heavies fighter, and you do art. I have seen it. You do service. You provide growth and recruitment, and I've watched you do all of these things. So your opinion on the idea of peerages being added is super interesting, and I would love to hear. First, I would love to hear if you aspire to be a peer, and if yes, what has inspired you to do that? And if not, why not?
So I absolutely aspire to be a peer. I aspire to be a knight, because as a fighter, that just seems like a natural cause of events. I'm fighting, I want to be a good person, I would like to do all of the things that are probably knightly, so I will probably get there. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm basically on that path. I'm not running down the path, but I am in fact strolling down that path. You guys were talking about pelicans specifically. I devote a lot of my time into SCA things, but it is very much in my household, not necessarily towards the actual SCA. So I don't actually necessarily aspire to be a pelican, because usually the time that you put into a household doesn't necessarily get recognized at that level. As a very helpful person, because I'm absolutely helpful, I might get more involved in the actual official SCA side and become whatever that is. But I don't necessarily aspire to be one of those other peerages, except for winning crown in my own right, because I'm absolutely going to be that badass who's going to strive to be a queen in her own right.
And I can't wait for the day that happens, because I have
Yeah.
100% faith in you.
Yes.
We have all the time in the world to make that happen.
I've been doing so much spell work.
I love all of it. And even though this has nothing to do with anything, I've also been doing spell work and fuck offhand everything.
Yes.
But go ahead. Sorry.
So, yes, I strive to be a knight, and I strive to be a queen in my own right. But I don't necessarily strive to be a laurel or a pelican, even though you guys are talking about how pelicans are one of the hardest ones to get to. And I don't necessarily agree that that should be the case, because you can have a monetized number of hours put into this society to be able to actually like track that. Like if you put in 100, like a couple of thousand of hours a year, why wouldn't that person get their pelican? Like that just doesn't make sense to me. And it's one of those things where it's like, I hadn't really looked at the pelican side of the peers. So why is that a peerage that's so hard to get into? And one of the events that we just went to, one of the events that I went to just before all this went down was the Kaid Arts event, and we got a couple of people that were offered into the Pelicans, and I was like, wait, what do you mean they're just now getting offered? They've been on the bod, and they're just now getting offered? How is that? How this is happening?
That guy had to fight tooth and nail. Just settle for a court barony for a while because somebody else couldn't get that peerage for him. Because I was there in that conversation when she put that court barony on his head and said, I can't get a peerage for you. This is what I can do.
Yeah, and that just doesn't make sense to me. Well, like, I don't, why do you need to put that many hours into getting a pelican?
And another thing that like really infuriates me is, so that person that you're talking about is Sir Tiberius Finn, who only recently was offered into the Order of the Pelican in the Kingdom of Kaid.
I thought we weren't mentioning names.
No. We're only not mentioning names if they're shitty humans in a negative way. Sir Tiberius Finn was just offered Order of the Pelican before COVID happened, and that man has deserved a pelican for a very long time.
Yeah,
I think that a hard thing that we are struggling with in Kaid is the concept of, again, soapbox, because I have some fucking feelings about this, is people in our kingdom at least, and I can only say this because this is the only experience that I have, you're only allowed to vie for one peerage at a time. And you have people who are super polite and quite helpful telling my darling and amazing man, who is a fighter and will help anybody, like without questions asked, that he's only allowed to want one peerage at a time.
That doesn't make sense to me.
And boy, oh boy, did that make me like viscerally mama bear angry inside.
I have another mood about that.
Dude, go for it.
That it is a stigma to where if you become a knight, it is unlikely that you will get a second peerage. Like, you need to strive for that first peerage first.
And I don't understand that. That's so dumb.
It does.
If you're good at art and at fighting, you should be able to do both things at the same fucking time.
I do Scrabble.
We maybe also shouldn't be telling people that they can't be a laurel because they want to be queen. That's the thing that I know has been said to some of the roses along the way.
No.
I think that nobody should tell anybody how to play our game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because
full
this
stop.
is a hobby.
Yeah.
And okay, like, let's not be like, if we're all being real, I'm a little bit over serious about this game occasionally, and that's a thing that happens. Everybody has their thing where they get a little bit passionate about, And sometimes this game is that for me.
This
However,
is my extracurricular activity.
it is. It's what I got. This is all I do in my spare time. Like literally, this is my one thing. This is what I got. And
Feeling a little called
sometimes
out.
I get a little protective of it, and it makes me crazy. It makes me crazy that I can't vie like to be a knight if that's what I wanted, and a pelican at the same time. Like,
because it is expected as a knight to have those skills, to have that extra in order to become a knight. So
isn't that one of the whole values, is that you're supposed to be able, as a knight, you're supposed to be able to do service whenever it's asked of you. You're supposed to have an art that you're passionate about. You're supposed to have all these things, but you can't vie for another peerage at the same time. That seems just wholly unreasonable. I just don't even understand.
It is.
Yeah, oof, it's a rough thing. Okay, so we have been doing this for quite a long time and have had a wonderful conversation.
Yes.
So
we have so many moods.
So many moods and so many feelings. And I really appreciate all three of you being unafraid to share them. I really appreciate that, because I know that in a time such as right now, where we're having a whole global pandemic and everybody's like mundane lives are hectic and shitty in different ways, or whatever kind of chaos is happening in everybody's lives. I appreciate that all of you are still willing and able to come here and share your opinions with me and with my audience. And that's going to lead me into the fact that before this recording, I asked all of you to bring a couple of questions, because what could I be besides somebody who could give you homework to come on my show for funsies?
By the way, she didn't tell us until today that she wanted to come these questions.
Accurate.
I'm helpful. I'm very helpful, and I plan great.
I could have communicated,
She's
but
helping.
I didn't.
Oh, she's the female lamb.
She asked me days ago, and I was just lazy.
I didn't know until today.
Well, it's also not fair because I talk to Ducky every day.
That's fair.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. Well, we've been doing this for a long time, so I would like one question from each of you.
Okay.
And they can be specific to somebody or to the group as a whole. But I'm going to go ahead and start with Ducky first.
I want everybody's Great Western War favorite memory, because we talked a lot about Potrero and how Potrero is everybody in the Inept Engineers like big war, but we also have Great Western War as a house war. And so I want everybody's best Great Western War moment.
Okay, I'm going to go first. So I have been doing Great Western War for a couple of years. And when I say that, I mean I've been to every single one except for 2. And I could tell you stories of being a child and falling asleep in the middle of battlefields and causing problems for marshals, when in actuality they just took pictures of me and laughed. But my favorite Great Western War memory is going to be, I think, Great Western War 2016, when Oz and Marissa were king and queen, and they gave both Brienne and I our dolphins at Grand Court, but I did not hear my name. So I knew that Brienne was getting his dolphin, and I had invited our whole household. So
and I tripped over his name hard.
I mean, he also has the Gaelic Brennan,
which he hates.
He hates. He does, in fact. But it's hilarious. He has 9,000 N's in his name. So, but no, my greatest memory was we both got our dolphins, and he got called up and went up by himself. like we went up together and I like escorted him, being like all consorty and proud of him, and like I like kneeled at the end, like at the first row, and like let him go up there, and Oz goes, "Excuse me, no thank you," and like and I'm like, it took me too long to get that I also was being called up. And that was probably my funniest moment. Pretty closely tied with later that same reign. We were at one of our local baronial anniversaries, and it was just after my birthday, and I had just gotten a tattoo right here. And I happened to like sit in the very front of court during that morning court, and I'm like sitting there, and I'm just like scratching my tattoo like this. And the king at the time is talking, and literally I'm like completely oblivious to anything that's happening because my torso is on fire. And the king in the middle of court goes, "Rosie, stop scratching your boobs. Distracting." And it was probably the most terrifying moment of my life, but also it was hilarious, and I could not have asked for a funnier moment. So that's my favorite Great Western Moor memory, tied in with a secondary memory. Ref, would you like? What's your favorite Great Western War memory, Ref?
I love Great Western. It is one of my favorite wars. While Patrol was my first war, I do enjoy Great Western a little bit more because our household has a little bit more of a tight knit feel, because they're a little less. There's like 40 to 50 instead of 60 to 70 people.
Accurate.
Yeah, which is why Rosie was probably like, yeah, there's only like, what, 40 of you? It's like, no, there's a lot of us. But I want to say that probably one of my favorite memories would be when we actually switched captains, which would have been, were you there when we switched captains, Ducky?
Yep, I was there when we switched captains. I came here at the end of our last captain's term of captaincy.
Okay, so did you become a member basically that Betrero first before?
No, I think I became a actual engineer that Great West or something like that, or the Great West, because I became an engineer at Great West.
Was it that Great West that you became a member?
Pretty sure. I came in at a really tumultuous time. Y'all held a triad meeting in my living room.
It's fair. Yeah, that's a whole different story that we can talk about, not on this.
Yeah, no, like I came in at a point in our household's timeline where we were having a lot of growth.
Very turmoil, growing pains, all sorts of things. Anyway, my favorite Great Western might have been that particular Great Western where we actually traded captains, because we started doing we did a captain's games for that Great Western where we held all of these ridiculous competitions and games and stuff, where it was a bring the anchor to like the quartermaster type of thing, which anchor is a person for anybody who doesn't realize. And there was like eating the apple, which apple prevents scurvy for anyone that doesn't know. By the way, and just the shenanigans that went into that. And it was because of those captain's games that we started doing other games in the camp and having themed events where when we also did, by the way, Ducky throwing that ball, I'm like, I want to see Jordy.
Yes.
Sorry, I've done my best to not have to deal also with dog issues, but like Jordy demands to be played with.
Just ball is life, and I know that from that dog.
Also, Pippin's gonna be like just if you like just the butt half of Jordy, and it's gonna be the fucking dopiest dog ever.
Yeah. Ball is life. I have stayed at Ducky's house many a times, and I have had to throw that ball so much. But yeah, the Captain's Games was probably one of my favorite actual SCA events because it led to so many other events to where we actually had games and stuff. And it's been a reoccurring, like, we should do this thing like the Captain's Games so that we can actually have fun. Like last year we had basically the snowflake events of yeet the bullshit item of a chair or a baby, not an actual baby, just to be clear. But
no, but screw that chair. It's scarred. Okay.
I mean,
oh my god. Yeah. Or just there's been so many games that have come out of the Captain's Games that has just perpetuated in the engineers, and it's just my favorite thing that we get to have this fun thing that we do.
I love that. I love that. And I actually got to participate in my first Inept Engineer game night at this last Great West. It was super cool.
Were you a part of the Dick game?
Which one was it?
I was part of the Dick game. I think Brandon and I were finalists in the Dick creating competition. The glow stick dicks. It was a wonderful time. But that's a great one. Yeah. All right.
Unlike Cass knows, is it a part of Dick? I know.
It was a great time. Can confirm.
Anybody that is on our public page can see these dicks and still.
Yes, they can. So I did not win, and I thought I was ingenious. But anyways, so because I am only half a bard and I don't have the words, I kind of want to give like two.
Yeah.
They are both from Great Western War, actually. Which is funny because that's not the war that I started out on. So my first fighting war was at Great Western. I had fought in one tournament, and it was me versus two other people who had taught me how to do the thing. So they whopped my ass. So come Great Western War, I'm in the melee field, I have confidence, and we're in the middle of a melee, and I square off against some black tigers, and it's a checkpoint fight, right? So I notice that they're about to turn the cup over to the other color, to my right, excuse me, and I look, and they're doing it, and the guy goes, "Hey, pay attention." So I turn, and his buddy just, boop. You engaged me, and then you looked away. And that is one of my absolute favorites. Because that's my no shit there it was favorite story. But the other one is actually one that is very near and dear, despite the discussions that we've had in regards to like award systems. I am super, super proud of my duelist. But this one, Great Western War, it was during Devete and Agrippa's reign, and it was battlefield. I had the plague, which both like ducks, like you were probably there, Rosie. Like fucking like everybody knew I had the plague. I was about to die, but I don't know if he was Master Tyndall at that time. But Tink goes, no. Paolo, who is one of my consorts, he's like, no, he's gonna get an award, and I'm a part of Royal Guard, so I'm sitting there in the sun trying not to die, and Brigand from the Horsemen is like, girl, give me your Mandelion, like you need to lay down. And I was like, well, I will sit, but I need to see Paolo do the thing. So she stands guard, and then we're like, no, this is taking too long, so the rest of it we're gonna take to the rapier field. So they split off, they go to the rapier field. And so I'm sitting there, and they call for the duelist, and they call Paolo, and I'm so fucking proud. Like, he is on my arm, like I lead him up there, and I'm plague ridden, like I'm so tired. I haven't slept in like 3 nights because I've been coughing all night. And I set him down to get his duelist, and I take my respectful like 3 or 4 steps backwards, and then I take the knee, and then they're like, Nualis. I already told you they fuck up my first name, but they go Nualis Casnot. And Paolo just like shoots his arm backwards, grabs my hand, and pulls me forward because we both got our duelists at the same time. And that is probably one of my most special moments in regards to like the thing, is because like we were both holding out for each other with like, I knew he was going to get something, he knew I was going to get something, but neither of us had like that connection. So
That's precious. I love that. That's like how when Brienne and I got our crescents, we got our crescents at the same time. I knew that he was getting his crescent because he was the queen's captain of the guard at the time, and I knew, and she had said, oh well, he's gonna get this today, so make sure that he's there. And like he had to work that day, so I was just like, oh shit, can we move it to tomorrow, because he's not gonna be here for court. And he like made it like conveniently, like otherworldly bullshit fucked up some other planning situations, so it worked out. But like I was like, fuck, we're gonna go to court and he's not gonna be there. He literally like arrived 12 minutes before court started. I'm like, perfect, it's fine, you're cool, I just needed you to be back here for this, it's cool. I love that. But I'm not gonna but Ducky, I would also like to know what your favorite Great Western War memory is.
Probably when Hector got his AOA. His Westie AOA.
Yeah.
His Westie AOA. The one.
Oh, I was
not
not a part of that.
Not
was
the Caiden
amazing.
one, which was great. The Caiden one was great, and Alexander did a good job.
No, I have no idea what happened. Luckily, my recording didn't stop, so it should be fine.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Okay,
So what happened?
I don't know, my internet
So what
died.
happened was.
What had happened was.
Go. Hector, Westie, AOA, go.
What had happened was Ariella, or Her Grace Ariella, wanted to give Hector an AOA. She was Her Majesty at the time. Because he had brought her into the SCA many years ago when she was still playing in San Diego, and he hadn't been recognized with an AOA yet, and that was criminally wrong. But she let me know because she knew my face, and I had to go to the Inept Engineers and say, okay, we finally have some court business. Hector's going to be called up in Grand Court for his AOA. I mean, I didn't start out with the AOA. I said, we got to get Hector to court.
Yeah.
To which quartermaster told me, okay, what are you going to give me?
Our lovely quartermaster.
Yeah.
So I had to bargain with Hector, or I had to bargain for Hector to appear.
With Celestina.
With Celestina. And then I used the water-bearing truck to get a large amount of Inept Engineers to court at one time.
What? What did you have to bargain, Ducky?
I forget exactly what I ended up having to give her. I had to slip her the pickle. I remember that. I had bought her a pickle lighter. But I had to give her an ice baby. I had a bottle of booze.
Pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, I had to bargain real hard.
Cigarettes. Thank you.
Yeah, I had to bargain
camo.
real hard. Yeah, I had to bargain real hard for that and slip her the pickle. So like, and then I put 40 Inept Engineers in the back of a truck, and then like the handicapped or handy-capable people inside the vehicle so that they didn't have to stand or anything, and took everybody to court so nobody had to walk. Yeah.
So poor Ducky comes into camp being like, so I need Hector to come to court. And then before Hector can actually stand up, Silenus can stand up. Celestina's like, sit down. What do I get? Like, ooh. And poor Ducky, this was before she was bonked. And she was like, oh, I don't, hold up.
I was camping with the house, but I was still camp master of Star Coffin, so like you never actually saw me.
Yeah, this was just before Ducky was bonked, before she was an official household member.
I think my tent was technically inside of Shanti and Vlad's tent.
Yes, you had a tiny tent inside of their tent, which was massive.
Yes,
And
which is now Will's tent.
Yes.
I love it. That's
yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. So that's Ducky's question. 2 more questions, and then we got to wrap it up because we're hitting our outskirts of our time limit for YouTube to accept our video.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So, Catnot, did you have a question for the group or for somebody specific?
Oh, that's super difficult because I have one that relates to the group, but I have one that relates to me personally that I don't know how the rest of the group would respond. So
now-
I will go.
Do both.
I would say I'm going to go for the one that I don't know how the rest of the group would respond, and then I
Perfect.
will hit the generalization. So it wasn't until recently, and we have had a lot of deep, dark things in the world. I mentioned outside of this group, I live in a particular city in San Diego that has a reputation for racism. And because of a lot of views in regards to that, it's actually like the good thing is it has made me dive really super deep into my Mesoamerican ancient heritage. So if you are not comfortable with this, I will ask my more broader question. But Ducky, because for me, this is a native culture because I fuck the Spaniards. I hate that, and it's very difficult to have a culture before the Spaniards, especially in regards to Mesoamerica, because the different history. But what is a way that you have utilized in your either modern life or potentially your SCA life that you've tried to incorporate that? And if that is not something that you can answer, that's totally valid, and I have a broader spectrum question.
I need clarification on your question because my version of being First Nations is different than yours.
Yes.
The Haudenosaunee people did not have as much interbreeding as the Western tribes did. They weren't raped as much. So I'm gonna need some clarification.
Okay, so for mostly it's me in regards to research and what you have felt comfortable with if you have brought it into your mundane life or if you have brought it into your SCA life. I only just started this journey because for me, I have had a very I've been angry for a long time, and then recent events have made me angrier. So I've been researching so much, and I don't have a way that I can establish that. It doesn't need to be an in-your-face thing. I don't need to wear a brown pride t-shirt. But if there are things that you've utilized, even if it's a slight part of that, or if you've ever utilized it in the SCA, because literally this is where I'm going to go in regards to the SCA, regardless of my name. I'm not going to go Aztec. Because that's a particular time period. I'm going for where my family originated, which is a different part. It's the Wichita Indians of Nayarit. And so I'm just wondering if you have ever tried to utilize this and how that went. Honestly, this isn't you asking someone who may have done it in the past.
In my experience, the SCA has not been accepting of First Nations cultures because of the primary focus has always been Western Europe and how we interacted with Western Europe.
Adler, you're fine.
I have it's hard. So I've done a lot of personal research and I've done a lot of acceptance into my life, and it is being a biracial person has affected my life greatly outside of the SCA, and I use my culture a lot of times outside of the SCA, but I don't tend to bring it into the SCA.
Okay.
It has not been accepting of First Nations cultures, even when First Nations people are trying to show that they would have had contact with Western Europe or peoples of Western Europe. I just try to live every day by Keswentha. You stay in your canoe, I stay in mine. It doesn't mean I can't be a kind person and live a kind life, but you stay in your canoe and I will stay in mine.
Okay. No, that's fair. And I apologize because I understood when I asked it that it was going to be a difficult question. We only recently had it where they're like, well, you don't have to connect it to Western Europe.
That was
And
not
like,
the culture when I joined.
yeah,
No,
no,
that was not the,
absolutely.
and
That's been like a year and a half, maybe 2 years worth of change. It might not even be that much. But because this has been something so prevalent because of the world has gone to shit, and I've received so much shit within the past 4 years than I have throughout the majority of my life,
I can't even get
for
people in
being
this.
brown.
I can't even get people in the SCA to gender me correctly most of the time. I'm not even worried about being brown. And that's not a dig at anybody in particular. That's just the truth of the matter.
I mean, that's fair. Like I have my very solid pronouns. But I've been called so many things, particularly because I already loosely mentioned this. I live in an incredibly racist town. It is Santee, and they call it Clantee for various reasons, and I have gone through a shit ton in regards to like negativity in regards to brown people. But I'm just like, for me, I'm fucking tired of it. And me bringing that to the SEA is relatively new because we changed that mindset. But I was just like, is there anything else that you do to that? Because like honestly, at this point, like I'm angry, and I will fucking fight you.
I
didn't mean to make this so hardcore.
I'm at the point where if people don't want to change, I'm not coming back. I'm tired of fighting.
Don't be sorry for talking about this. Don't be sorry at all. It's a hard topic, but it really is the truth. And as shitty as that is, that doesn't denigrate from the fact that it's still the fucking facts.
I'm 32 goddamn years old, and I'm tired. I'm tired of fighting in my hobby and having people tell me that I don't matter, and having their little microaggressions happen every day and being told that I'm too sensitive, because that's been the last 10 years of the SCA for me, and I've stuck it out. Please, anybody listening to this, stop telling me to stick it out. Actually change it and give me a reason to stay, because otherwise I'm gone. I'm Seneschal for 2 years, and then you've lost me. I'm done. I don't need to come to the SCA to see Casnot or Ref or Rosie. I can call them up anytime without the construct of the SCA. If you want to choose to support racist people and let the guys of your society shield them, fine. I'm gone. Done.
I'll come and visit you.
We can have another Vegas-Strea.
Yeah, Vegas-Strea was amazing.
Vegas-Strea was amazing, but we don't need to strive to be different. We need to, or let me rephrase. We don't need to strive to come to Ducky's house or to somebody else who is feeling the way that Ducky is feeling, because there's no way that they are the only one. That's just the nature of the way that shitty people are. We need to strive to become better as a unit. And I hope at the end of the day, I have the realistic outlook that I can't change the whole society, but I at least want to be able to reach some of you guys. And I know that I can. I know that some of the people who are, or I know the people who are spending their time to watch this episode, to watch this video, do care about the fact that racism is still a fucking problem. The people that watch this video, I at least hope and feel as though they have the same sort of ideals that I do. And that those ideals are humans are what matters, and happiness is what matters, and that we should never make people feel unwelcome for any reason unless they are a fucking trash human.
Yeah.
I think that trash humans should go and do their thing over there in their trash lives, doing their own things, thriving on their own, but over there at an arm's distance, because while I do not approve of the way that they are behaving, and I do not think that they should exist in my life, I don't think that humans are bad inherently, and that they should go be humans over there, away from all of my humans that I like, that I'm going to treat with respect.
Mhm.
And even if I am flawed, which I am, don't get me wrong, I cannot at all say that I know all of the correct terms, all of the correct verbiage, but I am fucking open as shit to learning, especially as someone who is not in the traditional spectrum of sexuality or gender or whatever. I am a human who enjoys other humans. And I am loud and I am obnoxious and sort of closeted about it. And I guess there's no inherent reason to be. You like who you like, and that's all that matters, because at the end of the day, fuck people who are going to be shitty to you about it. And if that's the case, come find me, because boy, oh boy, can I bring the full force of this fucking society at my back. And anybody who thinks different, go ahead and send me a message privately and we'll get that fucking figured out real fast. I'm gonna go ahead and pull some guns out for that and say, look, I might not be a peer, but that doesn't mean fucking shit, because I've been doing this for 25 years. I know more people than a lot of the rest of the participants in this society. And if you're gonna fuck with people because of their gender, their sexuality, their race, the color of their skin, the way that they look, I'm gonna fuck with your shit. Because it's just 2020, we don't have time for that shit. If we wanted to live in fucking times when people were still were racists and fucking assholes to other humans, we would actually live in medieval times instead of recreating the medieval times as the way that they should have been. Because at the end of the day, that's what the SEA stands for. It's not about reliving the way that history actually was, which was white-centric, especially since we're fairly focused on Western Europe. It's about recreating the way that the Romantics lived in a way that actually could have been, in a positive light and in a growing outlook. And we just have to there has to be people that push through and keep it going. And so please don't be sorry for asking a question that's hard or that's serious. I think that there need to be more people like you, Kaznat, that ask those questions, because there aren't.
Yes and no, but it is because it's very difficult, and that's not to like call either you or Ref out, because I don't know your guys' heritage, but that was literally Dux was the only person here because I'm striving so hard to find out about like my heritage and how I can utilize in the SCA that I could like ask about that. Because you guys can have your native culture, but like I know that for sure Ducky does, and I didn't mean to push them to a particular level, which is why like I told you I had a controversial question and then I had a generalized question. But I went for the one because I'm not gonna lie, like Dux, I super love you, but like it was also super selfish, because I've gotten angry in regards to what I've seen in my community, and like I have lashed out or been petty or given so many comments, so much more than like Casnot would have, because like Casnot is a nice and pleasant creature and she does nice things and she doesn't do wrong, and like I've been hitting really hard lately.
I think that we all suffer under the illusion that our persona is definitely different from who we are. They're not.
No.
People who want to hide behind their persona as they would have done it this way, and I'm not really doing it that way, it's a fine line. It's not. You are the person that you bring all of your experiences into the SCA with you. You don't stop being a two-spirit person when you walk into the SCA. You don't stop being a Mesoamerican woman when you walk into the SCA. It doesn't magically go away. You bring it all, like, and I hate to single them out, but Giles and Giuseppe don't stop being gay men when they come into the SCA. They continue to be the gay men that they are. However, they're not, they use that for good. They use that power for good.
They do. They really do.
And it's I think, using that power for good, I haven't found a way to do it yet because there has not been an opportunity. But there's got to be a way to do it.
Yeah.
I think that this, actually, both of you are being brave in ways that Ref and I can't really relate to. And I think that, or at least, maybe this is me tooting my own horn, I hope to give you that voice or that outlet. I hope that this show is something where that sparks a discussion that in a way that maybe other people were afraid to share, because especially with the way that the mundane politics are, there is absolutely no possible way that you are feeling this alone. There's no way that there aren't other people in our society that are feeling the same way that you are feeling, Kaz and I, but aren't as vocal, maybe don't know how to have the same voice. And what you are doing, I personally think is, I appreciate it, and I am thankful that you chose to ask this question to Ducky on my show, because I don't think that you're alone in your question. I think that there are people who are in the known world who are personally struggling with a racial stereotype, or with a gendered stereotype, or with a whatever stereotype, and they don't have a voice to share it, or they don't even know how to word it. And everybody out there who's listening, you're not alone. You're never gonna be alone. There will always be people here in our society that do care. And this is coming from somebody who has watched cruelty happen in this society. I have watched hardships, I have watched pain, and I have watched suffering. And I have watched people be cruel just so that they can show that they know how to be cruel. And even though that exists, it is a very small portion. And I hope that people like the four of us continue to exist in our society and continue to come back despite everything in the world right now, and before right now, and in the future, continue to come back to give a space for younger versions of us being the same sort of inspiration and growth and warmth, even if we, the four of us, and other people who have similar experience to us, I think that if we persevere and if we push through, it'll give them.
Sorry, but it's so super important to me right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you're angry now, because I'm tired now. I can't do it anymore.
I've had so much shit slung at me like the entirety of my life. Yeah. But like, because I had like a small amount of privilege, because my parents at least weren't like dirt poor by the time I hit like my 20s. But also I'm just you know what? It's not even that. It's just I'm fucking mad because I've always been such a fucking nice person, and now I'm just tired of being nice.
No, and I get it. I'm with you, and so I'm biracial, and I am Italian American, and I am Native American. My dad has, the white side of my family has been privileged because they took the time to bring themselves up from that, because they came here at a time when being Italian wasn't white yet, and then they were around and it became white, so they took advantage of the privilege. And my grandfather will be the first person to tell you that he took advantage of the privilege as best as he could, because he knew that it might not be there the next day.
Yeah, no, you take it when you fucking can, which is what it is in regards to being a different fucking race here in the goddamn US.
And it's led to conversations with the Native side of my family where I come off pretty privileged because the Italian side of my family has chosen to use that privilege to help me. And it's hard. It's super hard because you come back to places where there isn't education and there isn't money.
Yep.
And you get looked at like you're bougie because you went out there and had an experience of white culture. So it's super hard. It's super hard. It's a thing I've been doing I've existed for 30 years. I'm tired now. I'm tired of fighting. I don't want to fight no more. You go fight. I will sit here and wait for it to change because I'm fucking tired.
No, I will. Well, I guess it's a difference because for me, that was just a natural thing. My mother never went past the 6th grade because after the 6th grade, that's when you had to pay for it. My abuela made pozole for a living. Up until I was like 14, like my mom was illegally crossing the border. We didn't know if when she was gonna cross the border, if she was gonna fucking come back. She worked in the sweatshops in LA. And it's like a lot of things. It's just like I think it's almost like oddly enough back to like what we were talking about is like when do you find your voice and when do you find that it's enough, because I've been so fucking meek and mild because I've been hurt personally by individualized things that I wasn't trying to be strong, and now I'm trying to be strong, and I respect that you've already been there and you want to let me do the thing.
I found my voice when people boxed me into a corner. I found my voice because I didn't have a choice. I'm glad you had a choice in it. And that's just the truth of the matter. I found my voice and I found out who I was because I didn't have a choice. I got boxed into that corner because people made that choice for me.
Yeah.
I was much happier to grow up biracial and accept who I was, but there were people in this world who made that choice for me, that I was going to be somebody they were going to be racist against because of the color of my skin and because of the heritage that I carry. That wasn't my choice. I'm glad you found yours willingly and you can explore it.
I mean, I didn't. Honestly, it was until the impotus in Chief did. When people, like, and I know that's not as early as you.
It's not about when it happened, though. I'm just glad that it happened.
Yeah, that's when I started to get the more slurs and all the things, because otherwise I got shit thrown all around because I live where I fucking live in East County, San Diego, about being fat.
I couldn't even.
But
I had a hard time getting people to understand that it's even a thing against people, indigenous people, the racism a thing, until, for example, my partner, one of my partners came to New York with me. Roland came to New York with me, and he saw people just making shitty comments, accusing me of stealing, even though I was just standing in the Walmart trying to buy clothes because they'd lost our bags.
Fuck.
Because that's their view of Native American people. That's their view of the people where I was raised. That they are welfare babies and drug addicts and thieves.
Well, I hope to propagate the idea that is fucked on 100 different levels.
I mean, it is fucked.
Yeah.
I know that you can confirm, and I'm not saying that any argument against that is valid in any way. but I hope to change the outlook, at least in our sort of exclusive, whatever, our sort of unique community, that at the end of the day, we all have the same hobby in common, and it doesn't matter what we look like. It doesn't matter who we are, or what we choose to identify ourselves as, or what we like in the bedroom, because it's nobody's fucking business. This is my privilege speaking, and I'm wholly aware of that. But it makes me so angry that there are humans that exist in this world who feel like other people who do not fit their traditional or their whatever view of how other humans should be, and treat them poorly because of it. And all I want to do at the end of the day is propagate the fact that we are all humans, and we all should be doing this hobby together to have fun and to support each other. And because we all have this in common, because we all love the SCA, because we all enjoy this specific niche community, we should be supporting each other no matter fucking what. And I cannot control the way that other humans act, but at the end of the day, you will always have me and my partner at your back. And even though Brienne is not here physically with me in this recording, I super promise you that him and I will come with all guns blazing, swords out and ready for whatever you need. Because we're all humans, and we all just need to be nice to each other. We all have anxiety. We're all awkward. We all have something. That's how we've all come together in this unique group of humans. We all have something in common, and we should all support each other. And I hope that I can provide support in my voice, or in my guests, or in presence just existing. I think that at the end of the day, the most important factor in this organization that I am going to strive for is that we need to support our friends. We need to support our comrades. We need to support each other. Because with the way that the mundane world is so fucking insane and crazy and hectic, at least in our own groups, whether it's our kingdom, our barony, or even just a household, we need to build a group of support. And I hope that I can provide that, at least for you guys. I hope that you all have a space to share with me and with my audience. And I love that you all have come to join me today. And I want to thank you again. And I know to all of my listeners that this has gone a little bit longer than most of my other episodes.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry, because all of this is important. I'm going to say sorry to Ref for not getting to her questions, but 2 hours is a long time, and I love that everybody here has listened, because everything that we talked about here today was very important. And because I didn't get to Ref's questions, and because of the fact that all of these people here with me today and our quad of non-peers are incredible and inspiring to me, who knows, I might talk them into coming and joining me again. Maybe with other people, maybe the four of us again. And I love thank you so much. I cannot appreciate, I'm really bad at vocalizing my appreciation, but I cannot express it enough that the three of you have come and joined me today through technical difficulties, through rough topics, and everything else. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of my viewers. I appreciate all of you guys. And all of these topics here are very important, and I am very passionate about them. And I want to thank all three of you for sharing with me. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful time.
Thank you for having us.
For joining me. Yay!
Yeah, fun fact, guys, you can actually hold 3 dicks, not just 2. If you
No,
if you think about
bit wider.
Well,
if you,
but like if I do it like this.
No. If
like
you gotta put all the dicks really close together, and then you actually fit 3 dicks in there. I did it.
See,
did you test it?
Then we have to like. I feel like I would need.
I'm glad you tested this, Ducky, because there's.
I need proof.
About the
I need physical proof.
Okay, I used 2 dicks in a toy, but
proof,
still.
Girl,
fair
that's
enough,
a whole
fair enough.
entire different fucking question.
Rosie, I have one very quick question.
Okay, go for it.
Do you know what this is?
Yes.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
How do you not know?
All right. Is that a kazoo?
Yes. Okay. You're invited to our camp.
Okay. Phew.
Because if you know what a kazoo is, you know that rape is wrong.
Yes.
Okay, that seems fair. That seems fair.
Right? Doesn't it?
Yeah. Weird. It's like common sense is a thing that normal humans should have. Shocking.
Making sure you knew.
I do, in fact, know that is a kazoo.
Okay. Good.